We're going to take a deep dive into Racing Louisville versus Chicago Red Stars, a 1-1 draw in this one. And in this match, we're going to be highlighting the free kick of the weekend. We had some pretty good set pieces this weekend, Lisa, but let's talk about Chicago and Racing and what we felt led up to one of the best, if not the best, free kick set piece goal to happen this weekend. Chicago Red Stars on the road to Louisville, go up early in this one and then drop the points. Racing Louisville trying to keep things interesting in the Central. We'll just leave it at that at this moment. But unfortunately, not picking up the win. Sitting in second place of the Central now, right behind Kansas City Current, setting up a match day scenario for next week in terms of who's going to come out on top of the Central region. But a 1-1 draw in this one, thanks to Emina Ekic. Let's talk about it, Lisa.
I have to agree with this. I mean, there was a number of set pieces we saw this weekend. I mean, we saw Ashley Sanchez. We just talked about that, getting the equalizer against Gotham for Washington Spirit. However, this was the game-winning or the equalizer at the end of this match for Racing Louisville. Emina Ekic, she comes on, checks on, subs on in the 56th minute, and about 10 minutes later, she scores the equalizer. There was a set piece opportunity right outside the box, and the young striker, the young forward for Racing Louisville, is determined to be the one to strike this. She's got an incredible left foot. It was picture perfect. I loved this. Now, it's no knock against Ashley Sanchez's or even Dabinha's that came earlier in this Challenge Cup for set piece goals, but this one, with the type of player it was in Emina Ekic, a younger player in this league, on a team like Racing Louisville going up against Chicago, who has a listener in goal, who has a really good defensive unit in Chicago. And for this young player to say, I'm going to be the one to strike this, left-footed, hits the upper 90, no mistake about it. It was a very, very impressive goal from Emina Ekic. The celebration from her as well was just tremendous, but it was almost how this game unfolded as well that led to this big buildup of the goal from Emina Ekic, because you're right, Chicago, they score in the opening 10 minutes of this match. It was really across the board this weekend. 7th minute, Amanda Kowalski, who recently signed just a few weeks ago with Chicago. She's made a number of NWSL starts, and she's proven that she deserves to be on the pitch. She gets her first NWSL goal in the 7th minute of this match. And then this goal from Emina Ekic didn't come until the 76th minute after a slew of substitutes for both sides, Chicago and Racing Louisville. But this match had a lot in it because the opening goals happening, lots of possession battles throughout these two, winning the 50-50 balls. It was pretty even possession looking at the stats for this one, 49.1% for Racing Louisville, 50.9% for Chicago. There was 4 cards given out in this one. We talked a little bit last week or the midweek about the calls being made and how maybe the officials have slowed down a little bit in giving their cards and everything. No, this weekend it was back up there. Lots of cards given out on all sides pretty evenly as well. This was a really fun game. Mallory Pugh went down, unfortunately. She got hit in the head. It did not look great coming off the pitch. I don't know if you have any more insight on that, Sandra, but this was a good battle between these two sides. Coming into it, I had Chicago winning and you had a draw for this one. So congratulations, Sandra. You get the 1-1 draw on this match.
It was just, I don't know. It was just a vibe, a feeling, a gut check that I went with. I don't know. Listen, Racing Louisville, when we're breaking down halves of the Challenge Cup or halves within matches for teams who are trying to build towards their regular season, we made note of the expansion sides, but I have a special eye on teams like Racing, on teams like the Current. These are teams that are in their sophomore season, essentially, right? These were the expansion sides from 2021. I'm curious to see what they're going to be building on in 2022. And what we're noticing is maybe just in this central region specifically, again, I don't know if anyone took a look at this region and said this is going to be the one that might be most even or have the most competition out of it. That's going to come down to the final match week in Challenge Cup. But here we are. It's looking like that's going to be the way that this shakes out. And so I had to go with the draw on this one because I'm like, you know what? just the international break, the coming off of, the international friendlies. What is the player rotation going to look like for these two teams? And those were questions that we asked of ourselves of this match, at least. And we saw for Chicago with the game later in the week, not on a Thursday, not on a Friday, but on a Saturday and Sundays type of games, that players who were active during international windows might have got starts towards these later weekend slate of games. And we saw that with Nair, with Pugh coming on board for Chicago. And you know what? I don't want to say it always comes down to one player, but you have this Red Stars team be very active, generate a goal very early in the opening 10 minutes. And then still try to retain possession, because this is a team with their shape showing that they want to try to keep possession of the ball, and not only keep possession, but do something with it when they have it. But then you have this really tough moment in the match where essentially your star player gets taken out of the game, right? So Mal Pugh taking a really hard shot as she was standing on the wall off of a set piece. And we got to see the concussion protocol come into play during this Challenge Cup match, just based on the velocity of the hit, the fact that it was a headshot. They made the right call, I think, in taking this player out, making this exit. And we saw with the concussion substitution that, with Racing Louisville also got an additional sub, because this is how things work with the extra sub now. But it's unfortunate that we had to see it in action, but I'm glad that the protocol is in place. There hasn't been an update since Mal Pugh coming out of there, but I think it's safe to say, knowing what we saw on the stream, what we heard in the broadcast, the fact that the concussion protocol was being utilized in real time, we're going to assume that it's off of that. Now, how she does over the course of the week, we're going to find out later into this week, as something like availability reports come into play, or pre-match day availabilities come into play, and we can chat with coaches about that, and we'll have more information later on down the road. But if we notice the timing of this, we have a substitution come in for Chicago. Sarah Griffith coming on for Mal Pugh just past this hour mark, and just mere minutes later, Racing Louisville trying to take advantage of the momentum swing a little bit, and they set themselves up for another free kick in another dangerous position, and we saw Ekic put it away. It was absolutely a stunner of a goal, so congrats to Racing leveling things out in this one. And I'm glad I chose to draw on this one, because he's like, I was like, there's just something about coming off of an international break. And I think while we might get some golazos, I think if there's going to be a game set up to be a draw, that it's going to be these two. Chicago Red Stars still searching for that ever elusive win over Racing Louisville. Just hasn't happened yet between these two franchises when it's Chicago versus Racing.
It hasn't. And we talked so much about the standings in this central region. So after all is said and done from this weekend, Kansas City remains at the top of the standings with 10 points. Chicago, number 2 at 8 points. Racing Louisville in third place with 6 points. And then Houston at the bottom of the central region with 3 points, because that's why this game between Chicago and Racing Louisville was such a big match. They end up splitting the points one apiece, and Chicago stays just barely ahead of Racing Louisville and behind Kansas City in this central region in kind of how it unfolded